Welcome back to Straight Talk. I'm Laurel Porter. We are continuing our conversation with some of the leading candidates in the race for Portland mayor. In our first segment, we heard from Commissioner Renee Gonzalez. And you can hear from all of the leading candidates in our KGW mayoral debate coming up on October 15th at 6:30 p.m. Next up here on Straight Talk, Commissioner Carmen Rubio. Rubio was elected to City Council in 2020. She was born and raised in Washington County, the granddaughter of immigrants who came to this country as migrant farm workers. She is the first in her family to graduate from college at the University of Oregon and is the first Latina on the Portland City Council. She began her career serving in the offices of Multnomah County Commissioner Serena Cruz, Portland Mayor Tom Potter, and the late Portland City Commissioner Nick Fish. In 2009, she was appointed Executive Director of the Latino Network. Welcome to my guest, Portland City Commissioner Carmen Rubio. Welcome back to Straight Talk. It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you so much, Laurel. I'm glad to be here.
Well, in January, we start a whole new form of government with a new mayor, city administrator, who the mayor will hire, 12 new council members. There's a whole slate of candidates who want to be mayor. I think at last count there were 18. Why do you think you're the best candidate to lead the city forward into this new future, this new era of government?
Well, I'm the best candidate because over the short time that I've been in office, that Portlanders have entrusted me in this role, I have delivered a lot for the city of Portland. And my numerous accomplishments around housing, around public safety, around building more shelters, as well as permitting reform and climate action, have all demonstrated that I have what it takes to actually get through these tough times, problem solve, and build coalitions with others to get things done.
What would you say, I know you have a whole list of accomplishments, but what would you say are the top two results that you've gotten as city commissioner?
I think one of the ones that I'm most proud of is permitting reform. It was an intractable problem for many decades that many different commissioners tried to tackle, and they were unsuccessful. And so when I was able to have control of the Bureau or oversee the Bureau, I had the authority to actually say, hey, we're going to try this. And then I had to build the coalition along to get it done.
Well, critics say that voters are really frustrated with the status quo and they want change, and that you haven't connected with voters who are really upset about homelessness and crime. They say that your message lacks urgency. How would you respond to that criticism? And what is your campaign message? What is your campaign motto, would you say?
Well, my campaign message is really, let's make Portland better than its best. Let's make it more livable, more safe, more accountable, and thriving for all of us. And I really do believe in that. I am not a single issue candidate. I am a candidate that's ready to go on day one. You have to have a comprehensive understanding of how the city functions as a whole. And that's what I feel like I'm good at.
Well, how do you think homelessness will look different if you're a mayor? Because that seems to be the number one concern for a lot of voters.
Absolutely. And the top two issues for me moving forward right now are about getting back to the fundamentals, and it's ending unsheltered homelessness and also making sure that we create a safer community, a safer city. And in terms of homelessness, we need to do some really key things to make sure that our city gets on track. And that starts with making sure that we have enough shelters with services on site in order for people to have a place to go immediately.
One of your opponents, Keith Wilson, says he can end unsheltered homelessness by the end of June of next year, not very far away. Do you have a plan like that?
I have a plan that is really to build out a continuum from shelter to housing and everything in between. And actually, it's not rocket science. It's something that we all know that works. It's just doing the hard work of building out a system that works, because we haven't really had one. So unfortunately, I understand and I've heard other people's plans, but there are no quick fixes. We just have to put in the hard work to build out that system. Shelters with services on site, more mental health and addiction services, and then also transitional housing and plans for people who are always going to need permanent supportive housing so they don't return to homelessness.
Commissioner, I have to ask you about what's been in the news recently about all the tickets, parking violations. You've had 150 tickets, according to the Oregonians reporting that you failed to pay most of them for months, if not years, that your driver's license was suspended 6 times, your car impounded twice until you paid those tickets. And then 4 days after that article read in the Oregonian, you dinged a parked car in a parking lot, walked away and didn't leave a note. I want to start with the tickets first. 150 tickets, Commissioner. That's hard to imagine. It seems beyond the pale. How does someone get 150 tickets?
Well, there were a few things happening around that time, and there are actually 90 incidents of multiple tickets. So that's a distinction, small one, but just something that gives more context. And during that time, over the period of a set of years, there were a couple things happening. One was I was the director of a nonprofit that was struggling, and I was specifically hired to help that nonprofit succeed and thrive, and it ultimately did. So there was a lot of work, a lot of pressure. I had very long days at that site, and it was a site that was heavily patrolled by parking meter readers, and thus, I was constantly getting tickets. I did not make smart choices about that, and I'm very sorry about that, but nevertheless, that is what happened at the time. Concurrently, I assumed some very big familial, personal responsibilities and took charge of those and assumed those responsibilities to help my family. And it was a very challenging time trying to prioritize my work life to make sure that we were successful in this role, and that an organization that employed so many people, and then also taking care of my personal.
Well, you said it was heavily patrolled for parking violations. Why didn't you park somewhere else, or take the bus, or take an Uber when you started getting so many tickets?
It's true, and those were things that I thought of too late. And in hindsight, of course, I 100 times have thought about this over and wished desperately that I had made different choices back then. And that's, this is what happened, and I have to live with those, the consequences of those choices. And I've paid off those things, and really now have really reflected a lot about that, and I'm very careful.
Well, then you got a ticket just this summer, though, for parking in a loading zone.
Yes.
It would just seem like a disregard for the law of the city you want to lead.
Yeah, that was an accident. I actually parked behind a vehicle that was blocking the loading side, and I actually paid anyway, and I realized that later. But yes, I all of these things are very they're embarrassing. I'm very sorry about it, and it really causes me to be reflective.
Well, let's talk about dinging the parked car, where you dinged the Tesla in the parking lot. You walked away without leaving a note. Why?
Well, when I dinged the car, I did not see that I hit the car. I did not see that it damaged the car from the angle that I was looking at. I should have looked around. I was wrong to just not do a full perimeter check. I should have done that, and I did not. I couldn't see it because it was on the side. When I came back and I saw that there was a note, I immediately called the owner and proceeded to try and give my insurance to take care of it, and that's where it's being handled right now.
We asked politics professor Jim Moore about how he sees the significance of the situation. He says it goes to an issue of trust. So let's listen to what he had to say, and then I'll have you respond.
Well, she's running to be a person in a position of trust. Is this a person who will follow through on what people accept to be right? Okay, so that's a big thing. So it's a scrape on the side of a car, but what are you supposed to do when you do that? You, at the very least, leave a note on the windshield saying, "Hi, I'm sorry about this, contact me, let's move forward." That didn't happen.
So do you think it goes to personal integrity?
Well, I like to call myself as someone who's led my life with a lot of integrity. I feel like I was careless, and I should have walked around the car.
And you had said to the owner in a recorded call that you were humiliated and you thought about dropping out of the race. Did you ever really consider that?
Well, I think in the moment I was just feeling so badly about the previous story as well. It was very embarrassing, and it was very personal, and it reminded me of all those challenges during that time that I had in my life. And so I think a lot of that felt blended together a little bit.
Ultimately, you've decided to stay in the race,
Yes,
in it to win it. So tell me, If you're elected, what are the top things you want to do in the first 100 days?
In the first 100 days, I would love to create a fast pass for permitting, so that in 90 days, if folks can show us that all their finances are in line, that we can issue an immediate permit for anything having to do with housing, either for affordable or middle income, all kinds of housing, so that we can hasten our work to get to those 120,000 units of housing that we need over the next 20 years. Other things I would do is to also continue to make progress on our work around shelters, continue to work with other jurisdictional leaders to build relationships so that we build out those critical systems where we have a lot of interdependence. So that means homelessness, and that means building a safer community.
Because affordable housing is so important. Young people feel like they're being priced out.
Yes, they do. And we need to be able to create a city and a community where you can grow up here and you can afford to live in the same place that you work. And that's what it's about. It's making sure that we have families for multiple generations who feel like this city belongs to them.
Well, Commissioner, I want to give you about 30, 40 seconds for a final pitch to voters about why you should be the candidate they choose on the ballot.
Well, I would just say to voters, I hope tremendously that you think about the choices that are before us. This is a time of looking at choices. It's a time where we're going to have a pivotal moment in our government and creating the blueprint for the next generation. And so do we want a mayor who can lead us and bring us together and who can problem solve, or do we want leadership that will continue to divide us and retrench to our corners? I say let's come together, let's have that vision of Portland as a world-class city, and let's make it happen together.
Commissioner Carmen Rubio, thank you for joining us here on Straight Talk. If you'd like to find out more about the commissioner, where she stands on the issues, check out her website, carmenforportland.com. Thank you again, Commissioner, for being here on Straight Talk. I hope you'll join us next week when we turn our attention to one of the Multnomah County Commission races. Sam Adams and his opponent, Shannon Singleton, join us. We'll see you next week for Straight Talk.